I was able to pay off $43,000 of debt in just 13 months using the simple strategies and processes that I'm going to outline in this video. Okay. Knowing these things allowed me to save literally tens of thousands of dollars of interest, and I became debt free years sooner than I would have if I didn't know what to do with any of these. Okay. So, in order to make these happen, though, I didn't have to get a second job. I didn't have to start a side hustle. I didn't have to sell the weird crap in my basement on the internet to make a few extra dollars. So if reducing your debt this year is a priority, but you don't know what to do, how to do it, where to start, you're in the right place. Okay. So first, I'm going to show you what's possible in your finances. We're going to start with we're going to dangle the carrot out in front. Okay. We're going to show you what the goal is, what's possible when it comes to paying down our debt. Okay. And then we're going to reverse engineer the process in terms of what we need to do to get there, A to Z. Okay. So I'm going to just share my screen real quick. One, credit card. Two, we have a personal loan, and we have student loan. Okay. So smash the like button if you have, multiple debt items similar to this example. Okay. It's good to know. Good to get feedback. So in total, we have $40,000 of debt. Okay. Here's our interest rate. Here's our minimum payments totaling $485. Okay. So a lot of this might seem familiar for you guys, right? If you have debt, you might know how much the balance is, how much the interest rate is, and how much the minimum payment is. But what you might not know is the next part we're going to get into in a second here. So this middle part, monthly payment, this is how much you're going to be paying every month towards your debt. Okay. So let's assume for right now that you are making minimum payments. So you're doing a nice job. You're staying the course. Okay. You're not behind. You're not ahead. You're staying the course. This means this initial snowball means if there's any extra money that's being applied to your debt, and as we know, we're paying the minimum, so that is no. Down here is where it's really cool, and this is probably where you're not sure the information on. Like again, you probably know how much debt you have, the interest rates, the minimum payments, but you don't know how much interest you're going to be paying for each line item based on your, how frequent you're paying and how much you're paying towards the debt. And then also how long it's going to take to pay it off, which is really cool. So this debt payment calculator uses two strategies really that you should focus on. So the first one is the avalanche method. So what it's going to do, the calculator, is organize your debts from the highest interest rates first, all the way down to the lowest interest rates. And what's basically what you do, it prioritizes interest, which is going to be the most cost efficient method for you, paying off your debt with the highest interest, right? Interest is the killer when it comes to debt. That's why people are in debt for so long. And we're going to talk about that in a second here. The other strategy here, you could just click here. We'll go to Snowball. This, as you can see, the stuff moved back and forth. So let me just show you. This recategorizes based on the priority. So with the Snowball, the priority is the smallest loan, and we work our way up to the largest loan. So the whole benefit here is that you get quick, small wins. You build up the habit of like, hey, I'm paying down the debt, I'm getting wins, and you keep going. Sometimes what happens with the avalanche method is, yes, it's the most cost efficient, but if you have the highest interest rate on the largest loan, then it's going to take forever to pay it off, and it just feels like you're not making any progress. But with this, at least maybe you feel like you're making progress with paying down the smallest loan. And this is actually what my wife and I did when we were paying down the $43,000 of debt. At the time, to be very honest with you, I did not even know that the debt snowball method existed. And I'm just going to stop sharing real quick. I didn't even know that it existed because I don't know. We didn't really look into it, but we had a total of 12 loans. Okay. 12, a lot. I had some, she had some, we had shared. It was a mess, right? But we looked, and there was maybe 4 or 5 of them that were under $1,500 each. And those were the smallest ones. And it's like, you know what, that would be really cool if we were able to pay those 4 or 5 loans off pretty early on in the process, as early as we can, whatever. And we pretty much just cut our loan numbers. We cut a third off of it, right? So if we had 12 and we get rid of 4, that's great. Then we only have 8, even though the dollar amount still would have been significant, but it felt good for us to just get rid of those smaller ones. So I'm going to get back into the debt payment calculator, and we're back. So In this example, we are actually just going to use the avalanche method since it's the most cost efficient. Again, either one of them is good. You just have to understand yourself when you're picking. It's like, uh, do I want to save a little extra money in the long run, or do I want to just like make sure that this habit sticks and that I actually, you know, am on the road to pay off my debt? Okay. So here we have, here's all our debts, and you can see we totaled the interest. And on $40,000 of debt, just in this example specifically, everyone's will be slightly different, right? Because there's a lot of different numbers moving around. The total interest is $108,000, guys, on $40,000 if you're making just minimum payments. And I'm recording this in 2025, January 2025. So it's going to take 25 years. This is the debt-free date of when the last debt item is going to be paid off. So 25 years to pay off $40,000 in debt. Now, if you enter your information here and you have a year that you're not too excited about, that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Because if you're serious about paying down your debt, and let's say you have 40, or even if you have 80, shouldn't take like 25 years is like insane. Okay. So that's first of all, this just gives you an idea of like, hey, what's my starting point? That's the whole point of this up here. It's like, let's enter our information. Let's just see what our starting point is. What have I been doing consistently? Okay. I'm making minimum payments. What's our starting point? If you think about it, like let's say I wanted to lose 20 pounds, right? I can't lose 20 pounds if I don't know what my starting point is, if I don't know what my starting weight is. So if I never go on a scale and I never want to go on a scale, I'm never going to go on a scale. How do I know if or when I lost the 20 pounds, right? It's just kind of silly. So we have to know how we're starting. What's the starting line? Because we know what the finish line is. The finish line is no debt, right? That's pretty simple. But what's the starting line? And then the hardest part is the strategy and the just staying consistent throughout that entire process. Now, it's pretty hard to stay consistent for 25 years with this. Like, how likely do you think that would be if you were to say, oh, yeah, I guarantee myself that I'm going to pay off minimums for 25 years? That is ridiculous. Okay. So we need to do a better job of trying to speed up the process. Right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a little extra money to our payments, and I call this the power of $100 because a lot of times all it takes is an extra $100 to pay off your debt a lot faster, like a lot faster. So I'm going to enter $585. Okay. And what I want you to do is look down here as I hit enter. So remember, when we were paying just the minimum of $485, the total interest was $108,000. And the debt-free date was in 2050. Okay. So when I hit enter, let's see how those changed. Okay. Whoa. So we added just $100 extra from the minimum payment. And now our interest is $27,000. So it was so much money, I forgot how much. So it's like $80,000 of interest. That's insane. Now, again, that's just this example with, this balances and these interest rates and these minimum payments. So results may vary, right? But the point is, it could be very dramatic for an extra $100. And not to say, like, also with this debt free date, we went from 2050 to 2034. Again, that's 16 years that we're shaving off of being in debt. So $80,000, 16 years for just an extra $100. So if you're not motivated to make a change by seeing this information, then I don't know what would motivate you. Like, I'm trying to dangle a carrot. It's a pretty big carrot. I know carrots are not as fun as like, cookies and cake, but it's a pretty big carrot and it's pretty juicy. Okay. Now, I just want to show you really quickly before we get into the reverse engineering portion of this. Sorry, guys. One of my kiddos is sick. So just those daycare germs are insane. It works the opposite direction too. And what I mean by that is, let's say we go back to the minimum payments. The compounding effect of paying down your debt faster also works if you do not make minimum payments regularly. So let's look at it this way. If your minimum payment's $485, let's do a negative power of $100, and we'll look again at the interest and the debt-free date and see how much they go up by. Okay, so Doing this just completely broke the calculator. It doesn't even know what to do. I probably should have tried this before. But the point is, I'm just trying to find like a point where it like actually catches itself. Okay. So even 35 less dollars than the minimum payment, just $35. It's going to take you 4 more years now of payments just because, you couldn't quite get up to the minimum. And it added, what was that? $18,000. So it works both ways. Step 1, I'm going to stop sharing cuz I think this is important. Step 1, we have to make our minimum payments. We have to find a way to get to the minimum payments. That's number 1. If you're not making your minimum payments or you're not doing it consistently, we have to find a way to make that happen, because what's not included in this calculator that I'm showing is any sort of fees or whatever that you kind of agreed with the lender of, when you made that agreement that, hey, if I'm late, blah blah blah, or your interest rates could actually go up if you're late. So there's a lot of factors of more costs if you're actually not making your minimum payments. And this is how these institutions make a ton of money. Okay, and I'm not anti-debt, by the way, just to be clear, but I don't think people should have it. Sorry guys. I don't think people should have it, but I'm not anti-debt. Like, my wife and I use credit cards, and we pay them off every month. But we it's because, so when we paid down the debt, we were just we had it was that we built up the habit and we built up the routine, and now it's like, well, we're just literally never going to do that again. We're never going to go in debt like that again. We do have a little bit, we have a little bit left on our mortgage, but never anything that's like credit card, student loan, personal loan. Like, we're done with all that, and we need to keep looking forward with our finances, and we don't want to go backwards anymore. So we have to at least make our minimum payments, and then from there we have to figure out how can we optimize it to even do a little more. So you could go like all the way up here, right? So this is the 585 number. If we did like, let's get crazy, guys, $750, the same thing happens. It just keeps going down and down. So now we're at $16,000, and as of recording of this video, it's gonna be 6 years from now, which is like way better than 25, right? Way better. So incrementally, the amount of money that you pay extra on top of your minimums is going to significantly reduce the amount of time that you pay into debt. So that's the debt payment calculator, guys. And you can actually find that along with my other tools in my free money course that's directly correlated to paying down your debt more efficiently. And I help people do that inside this community. So basically, it's a free community. There's free courses in there of kind of what we're talking about today, but there's way more information. You get accountability from people inside. You're going to build a personalized budget that you'll be able to actually stick with. And that's going to be the second part of this video, the budget. If you don't like where your money is at, you don't like your finances, this course and community are going to help you sort of unlearn your bad money habits and kind of get you on a track to success. And again, it's everything that my wife and I did to pay off the $43,000 in the 13 months. Oh, I'm really sorry, guys. This is what happens when you go live. All the unexpected coughing happens. I wasn't coughing all night, by the way. And now I'm just I turn I turn the camera on and I just start coughing. What I didn't mention before is I've been a corporate accountant for the last decade plus in my corporate 9 to 5 job. I still have a 9 to 5 job, but I kind of do this on the side to help people. And yeah, so the tools are in here, the training is in here, and it's been growing a little bit. I mean, people are in here, they're talking. Steven's in here, Brian's in here, Zane, Charles, Sandy, Tony, Justice, Rocky. I mean, the people are in here. And right now, if you sign up for this free course and community, I'm doing free strategy calls with every new member until my calendar fills up. Okay. So You got to jump in there. The link is in the description. It's school.com/debt, school.com/debt. Completely free. You'll see this page. All you have to do, you'll see a little join group over here. You join it. I'll reach out. We'll connect. We'll get you started. And really, it's just kind of a great way to do everything. Basically, what we're doing in this video. Again, there's more in here than what I'm sharing in this video. I can't share everything that's in here in this video, but it's just a really good taste. So if you've found any value of this video so far, or anything else that you've seen from me, please check it out, and I'll see you in there. Free strategy calls. So let's go to the next part. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to sharing because we have to talk about the next part of this. Okay. So I dangled the carrot out in front of you. We saw that it doesn't take that much money to pay our debt off more efficiently. We saw that what $100 did in that example. Okay. And now we have to find out, okay, well, that's great, Chris, but how do I find extra money in my finances? Like, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I don't know. I'm almost at zero every month in my checking account. I don't have any savings. It's like, yeah, that's what we're going to go over now. So the first part was the carrot dangling, and now we're going to go through literally at the beginning of the process and work our way through to see how it sort of fixes itself and we get to where we need to go. Okay. This, I'm going to make this bigger, is the budget template. Okay. And this isn't like your grandpa's budget or your uncle's budget. Like this is actually going to help you. And we're going to walk through all of this first. But before we do that, we have to go through what's called the 3-month look back. So if you've never budgeted before, or you don't budget consistently, or you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't know what you're doing with your finances, you're feeling stressed about everything, we have to go back and kind of see what our historical spending has been. Okay. And when I say historical, I don't mean like the last 10 years. We're going back 3 months. So again, I'm recording this in January. So for this example, we're going to look at October, November, and December spending. And ideally, it's just your variable expenses, but you can kind of do everything. You can kind of look at everything, but the variable expenses are the thing that we're going to be able to leverage the easiest, because your fixed expenses, like your mortgage or your car insurance. I mean, sure, you could, like mortgage, rent, car insurance, you could reduce those, maybe find a way to reduce that or whatever. But the leverage is going to be in the variable expenses. So how this works, and I'm just going to take another sip, is we're going to go back to each of the months. So let's just say October, for example. However you buy stuff, credit card, your debit card, whatever, we're going to go back to those statements and we're going to look at literally all the transactions from that period. And we're going to try to categorize them into different expense categories. So variable expenses, we're thinking about things like groceries, gas, utilities, things that we buy every month, but obviously the cost fluctuates. We just need to see where our money has been going, because we want to create a plan of where we want it to go, right? And if you're watching this video, it's probably the end goal is to pay down your debt a little more efficiently. So we're going to try to find the money here in this process to apply to our debt, okay? And after we go through each of the 3 months, we're going to get an average. And the reason why we're doing this, and the reason why this is different than a lot of budgeting processes I see out there, it's this process. A lot of people think about budgeting as being restrictive. Okay. So like people like, oh, if people just automatically think if they have to start budgeting, then that means, oh man, I just have to restrict my life. I have to spend less. It's all about cutting, take all the fun out of my life, etc. Okay. There's a lot of people that kind of talk that way, and it's extreme. And to be honest, does just cutting all the expenses out of your life, yeah, you obviously you would save more money by doing that, but how long would you do that for? Like maybe you could go extreme for like a month or two, but you're just going to fall off the wagon, right? You're going to go back to normal. You're going to keep yo-yoing back and forth because it's not a plan that's sustainable. It's not something that it's going to work for you at all. So I like to think about budgeting as just being intentional with where our money's going, right? So a budget, it's not telling us what we can't do with our money. It's actually telling us what we can do with our money and what we should be doing with our money. Okay. So budgeting and tracking your finances is for any kind of person, religion, sex, gender, whatever currency you are, whatever currency you're in. It's literally for everyone and it's completely universal. Okay. So once we go through this 3-month look back process, as you can see, I have some data for each of the months here, just some random data. So yeah, again, like groceries, gas, transportation, utilities, health and fitness, gifts, dining out, and activities. Okay. After those 3 months, we have an average. Now, a lot of the people that I work with in their personal finances inside of Dollar Discipline University, again, everything's free. Even my time right now, I'm just helping people on calls. Um, they're very surprised when they see certain categories. Very, very surprised. And by the way, just some pointers. Most of the people think that dining out and food delivery, they always are shocked with how much money they're spending in that category. So just something to keep an eye on. If you're just like thinking about your finances, maybe just look in this category because it's pretty much, I don't have the stats behind it, but it feels like it's like 3 out of 4 people are like, whoa, like what happened here? What are we doing? So after we get the average, now what I want us to do as you're going through this process is write down a list of 2, 5, 10 things that you really care about the most in your life. They could be financial things, they could be life things, whatever, it doesn't matter. I like to call these the North Star goals. Okay. So it's a list of what you are saying is the most important things in your life. And this could be, this could be anything. So, I was talking to someone about his personal finances, and one of the things on his list was he'd been going to this this barber for decades, like 20 years or something like that. And he acknowledged, he's like, I get really expensive haircuts with this guy. It's very expensive, but like I've been going there for decades. He's basically family. It's a non-negotiable. Like I have to keep this on. And he was almost trying to like convince me. And I was like, this is your finances and these are your North Star goals. So you're not going to get like I'm not going to say how to spend your money or where to spend it. That's why we create these North Star goals, to create a list of the things that you say are most important to you because it's your list. And then at the end of the day, these are your finances. These are your dollars, right? So once we do that and you have your list of 2, 5, 10 things, whatever, then we look back at our spending the last 3 months and we're like, okay, um, is our spending aligned with these goals? Now, if you've never done this before, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to be that aligned. And that's okay. That's why we're starting the process, right? Every time you start a new process, you're not good at it, right? When the first time you rode a bike, the first time you swam in the water, the first day on a new job, like you were never good at those things on the first day, the first week, the first month, like, right? It takes time to build it up. So don't get discouraged when it's probably not aligned, because the way I see it is every month that goes by is a new opportunity to improve the process and to just like refine your budget, refine your spending, maybe refine your North Star goals. And you just keep tweaking everything. Every month is like a new opportunity to tweak. Okay. So after we got the averages, we got our North Star goals. Great. Now what we need to do is create a new budget amount for each of these variable items. Again, you can do this for every type of expense that you have, but just know that the fixed expenses like your rent or mortgage, for example, they're not going to change. So the new budget amount would just be the same. So that's why we're doing this with categories that would likely change. So I want to go over two different directions that we can think about this. And again, the reason why I go through these next two is because I don't want you to think about budgeting as only cutting. And it's more just, hey, what can we do with our money? Okay. So the first thing I mentioned, like dining out and food delivery, right? So someone could walk in here, like do their finances, do the 3-month look back, and like, wow, I'm spending an average of $350 on dining out and food delivery. I had no idea, right? They're shocked. So they're like, well, obviously this wasn't on my North Star goal list, so let's just bump this down to $50. Like, yeah, we'll do a once a month pizza night for the house, whatever. And that's what it is. That's what we're going to commit to. And because we have to reduce our our convenience of the food delivery and all this other stuff, like we need to beef up our groceries, right? So these would maybe be hand in hand. So we'd be saving, so this is $346 was the average. Our new budget's $50. So we'd be saving almost $300 a month of, like, it's like budget money. It's not real money yet, but in theory, that's what we've saved. But now groceries would go up, and like, yeah, well, you know what? I probably need to buy, a few more things every week to supplement the Friday nights that we used to go out or whatever, right? So it's like, okay, well, this item probably needs to go up a little bit. And the most important part of this process is this column here. What action will you take to make this happen? Because anyone can just say, "Oh, I'm going to spend less money on this thing next month," and I'm totally going to follow through with it. But if you don't have a why, you're actually not going to do it. You might do it for a month or two, you're going to fall off. Okay, so you have to make a really strong why. And again, if you're watching this video, it's probably because you are in debt and you want to pay it off more efficiently and a little faster. So like, if that's the carrot at the end of your stick that you really want to dangle out there, then that's great. But these could be just simple things like, so the dining out, it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to reduce the spending here because I'm going to do more cooking at home. I'm going to have more meal prep, blah, blah, blah. And then the groceries, it's like, well, I need to buy more food at the store. That's why I'm going to be spending more than my average. So every number here that's in red, it means that you're spending more than your average. And every amount and line item that's green means that you're going to be spending less. And that's where we're going to be, like, quote, saving the money, right, from our average. So that was the one example of, like, we're like cutting, right? We're cutting dining out and food delivery. Okay. But the other side of this, let's say on your North Star goal list, you put some sort of version of health and fitness, whatever that means for you, right? And then you look at your spending, you're like, wow, one of my most important things in life, and I'm only spending $60 a month on it. So you're like, I could justify spending more on this because I told myself it was one of the most important things in my life. So instead of let's just say this person had a $59 gym membership, and sometimes they do a class, I don't know, an extra class or whatever. They're like, you know what, I'm going to commit to doing more classes, show up at the gym more, and blah, 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 right? You get the point. So in this case, we're spending more money on our health and fitness because we put it as, one of the most important things in our life. That's how I want you to think about this. It's not just cutting, it's actually increasing your money. And this, so I practice what I preach, guys. So I've done this process actually a couple times in my life. And not the last time, really the first time I did this, health and fitness was the thing where I was like, wow, I'm only just spending the gym membership. It was like $25. It was like, health and fitness was so important to me. I like to work out. So it's like, obviously I need to somehow find a way to, like, be more intentional with my money and my time and my effort towards this, because I'm saying it's really important. So once you make a promise to yourself, I found that keeping it is hard, but when you do, that's how you build the habit up. Okay. So I won't go through the other examples that we have in here, but again, anything that's in red, it means that you are spending more than the average, and green means you're spending less than the average. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is sum up down here. As you can see, it's totaled, and we found $266 on average, right, in our finances, just by going through this process, looking back 3 months of our historical spending, aligning it to the things that we say matter to us the most, not what anyone else says, what we say. So that's $266. So you saw what $100 did, right? Imagine, let's go back to the debt payment calculator really quickly. And yeah, that's probably going to be right around there. So 285 is our minimum, right? Oh, that was almost exactly the number. That was not intentional. Yeah, so it was like extra 265. So we saw what that did. We saw how significant that was. Okay. But again, this isn't real money yet. It's still budgeting money, so that we still have to kind of work out the rest of the budget. So that's where the actual budget template comes in. Let's see how this shows up. Perfect. So this looks a little overwhelming at the moment. I'm going to walk through everything. So we just went through the last 3 months. We went through the 3-month look back, and that's variable expenses. So as you can see, everything that we entered here. So these are all the categories that we had. This was the new budget amount, okay, which is cool. So everything just, there's formulas in here carrying over from here. So it all just kind of flows. It's like all you have to really do is enter this, think about the actions that you're going to take, enter your new budget amounts, and then that flows the variable expense part into your new budget, which is really cool. It makes it really simple. And we also have other sections here. We have fixed expenses. So, for example, things like your mortgage, your cell phone bill, internet, cable streaming, if you have kids, like childcare, car insurance, whatever. We have financial goals. So things on here like emergency fund, retirement, kids, future education, whatever. And then I have a separate section for debt items because that is what I help people do. Okay. So I need to make sure that people are putting that aside, and I'll get to that in a second because it's really important. But I just wanted to show you the how the file works. Okay. Then up here, what we do, your budget is going to be based on your income, right? It sounds simple to say, but we can't spend more than what we make. Okay. So we need to know how much are we making. So in this example, I have let's just say it's two people, right? So they each have two paychecks a month, and it totals $8,000 in the month. Okay, so this is their total amount that they have to work with to budget. $8,017. And this is really important because we have to know, again, it's sort of like the starting point. We have to know how much money we are able to spend. And again, a budget shows us what we can do with our money. So if we know that we can spend $8,017.81, then that's how much we need to be budgeting for. So up here, we have a couple sections that I want to go over. So remaining to budget. So what this is doing is taking our total budget, and it's adding up all of the columns of the budget columns here for fixed expenses, variable expenses, financial goals, and debt. So everything that we've budgeted for gets subtracted from the total budget. And this is telling us, okay, you have this much left to budget for. So now I set this part up intentionally. So the 3-month look back, we found $266.13 of extra money. So that's kind of what I left as for remaining to budget. This part, leftover money. So we haven't talked about the actual payments yet. So what happens when you're going through the month and you're starting to make payments for stuff, you add it in the actual column. So every one of these has an actual column. So in the fixed, this is what you actually paid. Okay. Variable expenses, what you actually paid. Financial goals, actually paid. And debt type, what you actually paid. And the same thing applies here, where we're taking the $8,000 and we're subtracting the total of all of these actual columns. Okay. So the 8,000 minus the total of this, and this is showing, hey, you have $368 left to spend for the month to get up to it. And this process is focused on the budgeting strategy called zero-based budgeting. And basically what this means is that every dollar that comes in, we have a home for it. Think about it like a concert or a sporting event. Okay. Everyone has a, specific seat of, their ticket is for a specific seat. So they walk in, everyone knows where they need to go to sit. Well, sometimes it's really confusing. Those places can be pretty big, and the people there aren't very helpful, right? But in general, most people know kind of where to go. And that's what I want you to think about your finances. So the stadium is like your budget, your finances, and each ticket is we'll call it every dollar that's in your budget. And we need to, every ticket that comes through, we need to know where to send it. We need to go, yep, section A112, okay, F32, right? We need to know where to send it all. That's the process that we need to go through. So what would happen here? So let me just show you. If you have money left to budget and there's leftover money to spend, it's going to show as red. So basically what you do you want to have it go green. So once there's $0 left to budget, it's going to turn green, which means, okay, this is a perfect budget, which is great. So I'm going to get rid of that. And same thing with the leftover, the money to spend. If we were to spend all the money, it turns green, which is great. Now, If you were to spend more money, so let's say you spent $100 more, it's going to go red again. So the only time these go green is when it's perfectly aligned, okay? And same thing with the budget. If we were to go over, so let's just say we budget over, it's going to show red, okay? So this is a great way to kind of just see quickly and easily how much left is to budget, how much more we have to spend. Because think about it, if you are updating your budget, and I recommend if you're just starting this process, like once a week, like, okay, go through the transactions every Friday night, Saturday, whatever day you want to do it, right? And you do it every week. And then you're like in the third week and you're like, oh, wow, this was a tough month. I only have this much left. You would sort of act differently in the last week if you knew how much you were able to spend and keep the promises that you made to yourself, right? Because if you just go through the month and it's like, okay, first month, you go through it, you think you did well, and then you look at the actual data, it's like, oh wow, I didn't even hit the mark here. Like I could have done way more. Um, so it's just kind of, I do like the kind of weekly cadence until you get used to it, and then you can go to like a bi-weekly cadence, right? But it's a good idea to not just go through the month, forget about it, and then come back and you're like, ah, crap, that didn't work out. So the whole point of all this, right, is to pay down the debt faster, and that's what that's what we're trying to do here. So the goal is the remaining to budget, the $266. But if we go back to our debt payment calculator, it's going to tell us which one to prioritize. So credit card one, the Avalanche is saying, hey, apply more money to this one because for this is the highest interest rate. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to add 266.13 here, okay, to credit card one. And now we have a perfect budget. Now we've budgeted everything that we can budget. That we literally budgeted for every extra cent that we have. But we still have some leftover money to spend. And this is where I think a little strategy comes into play. Because as you can see, and I haven't talked about it yet, but we also have this section here, the financial goals. I talked about that, but not the emergency fund. And the people that I'm talking to with their personal finances typically don't have any significant savings or any like sort of savings, or it's just not a consistent process. So the reason why I sectioned out financial goals and debt is because you should be thinking about that as an expense item that you need to budget for, not, hey, we get to the end of the month. Do I have money for debt or emergency fund? It's no, I need to budget for this and I need to actually make it happen. Because if you've been in the situation of paycheck to paycheck, it's because you don't have a plan for financial goals. Like every dollar that you put towards a financial goal, guys, you're pulling your future just a little bit closer. And at first, it's going to feel like you're pulling like dental floss. It's going to feel so insignificant. Like, why am I even doing this? But then at the end, you're going to be doing this huge like tug of war rope. Like you guys know what I'm talking about, like these huge, massive ropes, and you're going to be jacked right from pulling the rope the whole time. That's what kind of paying yourself first does. You're prioritizing the future financial goals. And I want to kind of go on a riff with the emergency fund really quickly. So just start. First of all, that's just my message. Just start saving it. And there's a couple of things I want to talk about. If you look for, information on emergency funds, you'll see two things. First, you'll see how to like optimize for an emergency fund, right? You'll see everything about high yield savings account and getting extra interest on a savings, blah, 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 which is great. I think eventually everyone should optimize their savings and be getting more interest, right? But I think if you've never done this before, I would actually just recommend either one, if you think you're disciplined enough to just leave it in your checking account, or like if you have a checking savings and you can transfer them quickly, just push money over to your actual regular savings. Because right now in the beginning, you just want to build a habit. You want to build the savings habit, and you're not going to do that if you're trying to like super optimize it. I don't know. You're going to get like way over your head with it. So it's just like, how do I just save a little money? Okay. And I was talking to someone else about their finances, and basically his account kept like fluttering around zero at the end of every month, and he got paid weekly. And I was like, he's like, I really want to start saving money, but I just don't know how or when or like how I'm even going to do this. I'm going to zero every month, and I don't have money for it. So I was like, okay, you get paid weekly. What if we did $25 a paycheck? So every week you just instantly move $25 over to his regular savings account. So we had a checking and a savings. I was like, just move it over there, and you know, we're going to do our best to like not have to move it back, or we don't want to go below zero. But like, what if in the first month you try to save for $100, and on the last week you're like, oh, I need to push back a little extra money, or else I'm going to go zero, right? And you end up saving like $70. I was like, $70, sure, it's not $100, but it's also not zero. Like, you're starting to build the habit, and once you do that, um, that's how all of this snowballs. Okay, you have to build the habit up. So I would just think about that. So the other thing, and that was a long-winded number one. So number two, about things you'll see with emergency funds, is if you go online and you search for, hey, how much should be in my emergency fund? You're going to see all these copy paste articles that are saying like, oh, experts say that you should have 3 to 6 months of, in an emergency fund. And ideally, again, sure, that actually sounds great. But for someone that's just maybe starting or isn't sure what to do, or they're just in the paycheck to paycheck, it's like, I just need to do something. Um, that can be intimidating to hear 3 to 6 months, especially after you go through all of this and you're like, oh, wow, like I'm spending $7,600 a month, just like in this example, right? So if you were to multiply that like 3 or 6 times, it's like I have to save 20 to $45,000. Like, how am I going to do that? And then they get overwhelmed, and then they just don't start. So I don't know if that's like your situation, where that's kind of how you feel. It's like you're overwhelmed, you don't know what to do. All these people are saying all these things that sound cool. It's like, wow, yeah, save 20K. But then you're looking at your finances like, how the hell am I going to do that? Well, don't do that. Don't worry about that. So how I like to think about it is, everyone has a number. And after going through this process, this is going to help out a lot. Everyone has a number of like, hey, what's the dollar amount that would sort of protect myself from most unexpected expenses. Okay. So some people, it could be $500 that would cover most, $1,000, $2,500, whatever that number is for you. Let's try to just get to that goal first. And I'm not saying do it in 1 month, whatever. This could take time to build up, which is okay, because we're building the habit. The habits will build the money, if that makes sense. So don't think about trying to build the money, just build the habits, and then the money will take care of itself. Because here's a good analogy, and then I'm going to stop talking about emergency funds. Um, if you've played a first person like video game where the main character has a health bar, you're going to get this analogy. Okay, so you're going through, visualize a video game where that is the case. Okay, your health bar, you should be seen at it. It should be considered your emergency fund in this example. The end of the level or the game, whatever, is your financial goal. So in this case, it'd be paying down debt. So you have health bar is your emergency fund. The end of the game is paying down debt. So you're walking through the level, everything's going great. You're doing the whatever's happening, and all of a sudden you start getting attacked by the stuff in the game. Your screen's flashing red. There's sirens. Your health bar is like plummeting big time. In the game, what do you end up doing? Do you risk it? And you're like, you know what? I think I can just push through this. It's not much more. I can push through, with the risk of, if you die in the game, you go back to the last checkpoint, you go back to the beginning of the game or the level, and you have to go do the whole thing over again. Or do you look over and like, hey, oh, there's a rock over there. I can go hide behind the rock. I could do the med kit thing. I could sort of stabilize the health bar. I'm not going forward. I'm chilling, but I'm not going backwards. And then you stabilize, you hang behind the rock. It all kind of settles down. All the attackers are gone, and you just keep going on throughout the journey. That's the same thing. What happens in your life, right? You're going through life. Everything's going great. You have building up momentum. And then all of a sudden, an unexpected expense happens. And because you're not prepared for it, most people just end up using credit, which in this case is like going back to the last checkpoint or going back to the start of the game. And you're like losing months when you do that. So you're like, build up 1, 2, 3, 4 great months in a row, and then you got like an $800 thing that just screws you over. You go back to the start and you're like, crap, I used credit card. I whatever. I basically just paid $800 after I paid $800 in the last 4 months. And it's this like revolving cycle. That's why you can't get out of it. So the emergency fund, what it's going to do, it's not going to make you rich, but it's going to help you from going backwards, which is a lot more important sometimes. Okay. So back to the budget. We are going to, I have here budgeting for $150 for an emergency fund. Now, we have $368 left to spend. Okay. So in order for us to reach the debt goal, that would be the actual amount that we added to credit card one after we, found a little extra money in our finances. Hey, we're going to try paying a little more towards debt. And then you're like, you know what? The only thing that I haven't really done is this emergency fund. And I budgeted for $150, but I've never really saved anything before and I'm not being consistent. So I'm going to happily put $102 into that emergency fund and just start it. Just start it. And then every month when you roll forward a new budget, we're going to keep this budget amount of $150 and we're going to try to do it again next month, right? We're going to try. And guess what? If you try for 150 and you get 102, would you say that you failed? No, absolutely not. Because again, you're building the habit. It doesn't have to be perfect every time. It just doesn't. So just start and build the habit. And this is the budget. And again, like I mentioned, every month is an opportunity to change. So what you can do with this budget template, and again, that's all inside of Dollar Discipline University. With the link is down in the description of this video. You can just simply right click on this budget tab, go to duplicate, and then boom, you have a copy. And now what we're going to do, since February is going to come up soon, boom, we have a February budget. We would get rid of sort of all of our actual, well, maybe not the fixed, but get rid of all of our actual. Okay. And then we can maybe like tweak the budget. It's like, well, you know what? Gifts, I'm not planning on buying gifts. And activities, like I have a thing coming up, so I think I need to make this $100, right? So you can play around with it every single month. Every month's an opportunity to get better at this. Okay. And again, if finding an extra $100 in your finances isn't motivating enough to pay down your debt a lot faster, you saw the results in the beginning. Okay. So if you're just kind of joining me, let me just go back here and just kind of summarize. So we have our debt. We're paying a minimum of $485. So with that, we have information that says the total interest that we're going to be paying on this debt is $108,000. So if you're walking around thinking, hey, I have 40K of debt, it's not too bad, right? But you're forgetting that when you're making minimum payments, and these are your stats up here, that you actually have, 40 plus 108. So you basically have 150. You have 150K of debt because this interest is debt because it's money that you're paying to the lenders. Okay. And again, I'm recording this in 2025. So it's going to take 25 years to get there just by paying minimum. So if we add an extra $100 in this example, again, results may vary for everyone else, right? Watch down here. It's $108,000 of interest right now with just the minimum payments and 2050. So I hit enter and we save $80,000 of interest over in 16 years. It's just insane, guys. So, but this is like this part's sort of the meat and potatoes. And just to talk through this all again, the 3-month look back, yes, it's a pain in the ass, 1000%. But it's a one-time time investment or effort investment into knowing your spending habits, which how priceless is that? Like all of our transactions, unless you pay, exclusively cash, everything's like timestamped now, right? We could just go to the credit card statement, we can go to the bank statement and filter it through that way. And we could see our habits that we used to have. And then on here, these budgets, we're creating habits that we want to have. And that's the difference. The 3-month look back is about our past. The budget is about our future. Okay. All right, guys. So the time's almost up. I do just want to talk about Dollar Discipline University one last time here. Okay. Uh, Down in the description of this video, school.com/debt, completely free community and course helping people pay down their debt faster and just kind of stop feeling so stressed about your finances and figure out how to manage your money better, because the least efficient thing that we can do with our money is be in debt, because debt is the ultimate wealth killer for you, and it's the ultimate wealth generator for the person that's receiving your interest payments, right? So again, inside here, everything's in here is completely free. The tools that I talked about in this video, my time, which I'm taking calls with all these people in here, everyone that joins, I'm doing a free strategy call, get you in the right direction, see how I can help, provide the tools that you can sort of use, and then you have access to me, like easy access in this community. You can just simply like message me or whatever, make a post about it. And it's just a fun thing to be in a community. Again, like all these people, like look at all like these people commenting here. We're talking about taxes. Okay. I was on a podcast recently talking about my journey. This person was talking about couples and, financial goals. This Zane just joined, and I have some content in here that I'm hopeful can be helpful for you guys. So, I'd love for you to join. It's completely free. As far as this stream goes, I'm going live every single Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Okay. And if we're talking about habits, this is a habit that I am not going to break. I've never gone live before. I've had like 5 or 6 lives that I've done in the past, the last 5 or 6 weeks. And this is a habit that I'm going to continue because I think building a community and just giving back and just talking through our situations. Uh, Big Burr, hello, how are you? And I just think it's really important to like connect with people and try to help people as much as possible. So love you guys, and I'll see you in the next stream. See ya.